I'm actually going to edit the video a little bit more, and I'm going to add a beginning to it because I don't think I said in the video, if you email me about, not this radio because this is a customer's radio, but if you email me about this channel board that this video is about, if I don't respond, don't feel bad. I try my best to answer emails, but I get hundreds these days. Within the last half year, it's gotten to the point I just can't answer everything anymore. I am so far behind on stuff. It's ridiculous. I'm considering I'm just going to stop working on tube radios, or just it's severely cut back on them. I'm getting to the point where I have so much work here now that it's just, you walk into the shop in the morning and you just go, oh, it's killing me. And emails, like I get so many hundreds of emails a day. Now they're not all from customers, but I get people asking me questions. I try to help out, but I'm getting 40 plus questions, probably closer to 50 now, a day of people asking me, hey, I've got a broken radio. What should I do to troubleshoot it? I checked these parts. I can only answer so many a day. I can't spend 12, 13 hours a day answering questions on how to fix your radio. I enjoy helping people, but I just don't have enough time. I just can't do it anymore. My email box, I literally have like 1,000 emails that I need to answer, and I just haven't had time. I go through my email box and I can't even view them anymore every day. There's just so many. I'm overwhelmed. I really don't know what the hell to do. I mean, it's other than close all my email accounts and start from scratch, get some new ones, and hopefully, it's just, my God, it's just overwhelming. So I know this video is going to create even more emails. Not like I need them, but it's going to create even more. So if you email me about these boards and I don't answer, I'm going to try. It's just a matter of I only have so many hours in a day, and I have to spend some of them working on radios. I can't just 16, 18 hours a day do nothing but answer emails. I can't do that. And answer YouTube video questions. I'm getting to the point I'm just so swamped with stuff that, so there's to start the video off. So now we'll get into the channel modification board. You can see we're channel 315, to minus 40, the bottom end, and 315 on the top end. So I'll start the video on the interior, show you the board installed, how it's installed. It's very simple. All of the controls stay untouched. You do not have to modify any of these controls. Anything you will be replacing is the rotary or the channel selector switch with a rotary encoder and a new 3-digit display. And this actually also has a push button. See, we just went to our home channel 19 there when I press the button in, and then I'll get the radio button back up, because I've already done that portion of the video. And then I'll go over in the second half of it. I'll cover how it functions, because this has scan features, Roger beeps, the memory channels, just how everything works, the bandwidth, and some of the limitations of not the board, but limitations of radios. Just because this radio goes from minus 40 to 315 doesn't mean it's doing and receiving full power at those, far outside. It will at the low end, but the high end on this thing, got to realize this radio is now several megahertz wide. It's from like 26.5, 565 or something like that, up to 30.155, I think it is, megahertz. So yeah, we have a buku of frequency coverage and span of how many megahertz. These radios can only do so much. So on with the video. I'll do a description. I'll try to find some time to try and answer some questions if I can. Like I say, if you email me about the boards, now it's not like we have 1,000 of these boards sitting on the shelf ready to be installed in radios. I have the board that's in here. I have a few more boards. They're already spoken for. Already have radios. Those are going in. So, those are... and then there's more the actual blank empty boards on the way from the board house, the actual circuit boards being manufactured, then they need to be assembled and programmed before they can be released. So, it's not like there's a shitload of these things sitting on a shelf. There's, I've got a few, Mark's got some, he sent out, I think, 1 or 2 to a few other people just to try them out. But, there's a limited number of these right now, but in the future there will be more. It's just a matter of basically we wanted to get it working, work the bugs out of it, ensure everything works fine, people like them, and there's a demand for them, then more will be made. It's just, but you're not going to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to order 100 of those things. It ain't going to happen. In the future, possibly yes, but right now, there's not a lot of them sitting around, ready to go. So, on with the video. On the bench today, we have a Cobra 148 GTL. This radio was originally sent in for missing channels above, I think it was like 30... Oh God, it was like 37, 8, or 9, somewhere around there. Channels just would disappear. And tracked it down to it had a bad channel modification board. This had a Lesscom channel mod board in it. And the problem was on the processor board. Tracked it down to that. And then completely disconnected it, put an original crystal back in it, because when you install one of his boards, there's also a crystal swap required. Put an original, 11302 or whatever the hell that is. Crap, I can't even remember. I had to look at this one. 11.3258, that's what it is. 11.3258 megahertz crystal back in it. That was stuck in, and the radio worked just fine. And I told the customer that fairly soon was going to have a new channel board. Mark's been working on this for a long time, and put my 2 cents in and got the new boards, and basically for me to try to give it like a test run to find any bugs, and I found a bunch of bugs, and then we'd fix a bug and another bug would pop up, or and actually I thought it was done, was actually doing this video, the actual operational part of this video, and I found another one, because the one thing I didn't do was go through all the channels, and the channel display was on one channel would show the wrong actual digits on the display. So I just got done flashing the latest firmware into this, and that's literally probably the last bug that could be found, because like I say, it's just I forgot to completely go through and actually watch the display as I turned the channel selector to make sure all the numbers were right. And yeah, there's one, you get to 186, and then it would go 97, 188. 180, it was actually, the radio was on channel 187, but it was displaying 97. So that's all been taken care of. And there's just little things you have to iron out. And anytime you create something, people see stuff like this, no, it doesn't take long to make. Yeah, it takes a long time. I mean, God knows how many weeks Mark has in, designing and troubleshooting and prototyping boards. And I mean, it's a lot of work. And then, writing all the software for it and everything. And then, working out all the bugs. Because you want to have all the bugs worked out before you actually release these things. So everything's good now. So now, the installation of these is actually fairly easy, usually. Now in this case, it was a lot more complicated because I had to undo the previous channel modification. The big advantage of this board is you don't have to do anything to any of the controls on here, except the channel selector. The only thing that changes on the front is the channel selector actually gets removed from the radio, and the original channel display gets removed from the radio. So right now this radio will do 355 channels. There's more possibilities, but the VCO just will not lock. I can only get it to lock down so far reliably, and that's just a limitation of the radio. It's not the board's fault. It's it can do more. It's just the radio. And honestly, and I'll get into that when I show the operational video. Radios are limited because your receive and transmit power tapers off. Now on this one, it's fine to the lower end, but when you get up into the 300s, yeah, your output power is going to drop and receive. You can only broadband one of these radios so far. This radio was not meant to operate over several megahertz worth of range. It was a CB radio designed for, channel 1 to 40. It wasn't designed to be converted into a full spectrum 10-meter radio plus CB and plus more. Because, like I say, because right now, and I'll get into that in the operational video. But as far as installation goes on one of these, there's two, I guess you could almost call it like 2 levels of installation. So you can install this board. It works with a PLL02A, UPD858, anything with an MB8719. So like this radio, Cobra, 148s, 2000s, and just dozens of other radios. Hell, even those have been used in export radios. Now it'll also work in the 8734s, but those were limited chips. Those were specifically, set to limit channels. Those were the replacements in later radios for the 8719. And if you wanted more channels in a radio, you'd pull that chip out and install the 8719. But you can only get a limited number of channels with an 8719. It's a great chip, don't get me wrong, but it still has its limitations. Can only do so many channels. But you can use that. And what you do is you have the main board. Ribbon cable goes down to a new rotary encoder, so it's no longer a wafer type switch. It's now a rotary encoder, and a 3-digit channel display. That's what this cable goes to. Now you see it looks like it's golden colored. It actually has RF shielding tape around it because that's a noisy connection. The actual display, that line, just because of this driver, generates a lot of RF energy. Really, really high-pitched noise. So you wrap this RF shielding tape around it. It's a metal crosslink. Almost looks like cloth, but it's metal. And that shields that cable, shields that noise so it doesn't get into the radio. This cable can go one of 2 places. In this radio, it goes to an expander board. And I'll get into that in a second. Or in most radios, what you do is just run this cable down, because you've removed the channel selector and LED display. You'd remove its ribbon cable. And then this cable would go down to the program pins on the existing PLL. That's it. Power cord, negative and positive, you're done. That's all you have to do. Now, this board also has scan and noise toys, so it has Roger beeps built in. If you want to take advantage of the scan feature and the Roger beeps, you need to use this plug and all these extra wires. And what you have here is you'll be disconnecting your receive and transmit wires off of your mic jack. They then get plumbed over to this board, and there's a wire that comes off of this and then goes to the transmit on the microphone jack. So now your microphone is telling the board over here that you want to switch from receive to transmit, and then the board is then connected to those wires to actually switch the radio from receive to transmit. And then you have the white wire that goes down and just tacks onto the audio line. The audio line stays on the mic. You just tack that one on, and that's actually what injects the Roger beep tones. And then for the scan feature, you have to attach a wire down to the squelch circuits, because the board needs to know when the radio's in, whether the squelch is open or closed. And it can sense either high or low. And then there's actually a jumper right here. There's 3 pins, and you move this little jumper back to either one pair or the other, which will tell the board it's either high, it's looking for a high when the squelch is closed, or a low. That's all you do. That's what that little jumper there does. But that's basically it. Even to add those audio and scan features, it's just a couple more wires to add. Now, if you really want to get a shit pile of channels like this radio has, you have to expand it, because the 8719 just can't do it. So what's installed in this is a 1450106 PLL chip. Has a lot more possibilities for channels. But that's not a direct pin match where you can't just pull the old PLL out and drop that in. So that's what this little adapter board does. So that's basically just this little guy right here. Okay, has headers. So there's pin headers. I actually got that flipped around wrong. This side, there's pin headers. Okay, you stick pin headers in the bottom side, and they go down. And then this board, those pin headers, then just plug in where the original PLL gets removed. So you pull the old PLL out, the pin headers go on there, and then this board goes in and you just solder it in. The new PLL chip, the 1450106, goes in this position, and then this is a connector right here that just comes up and plugs into the main board. Like I say, not required, but if you want that shit pile of channels, that's where the little adapter board comes in. Now the board for up here, that's this one. Okay, so the rotary encoder goes here. You have your channel display, but you see there's actually 4 rows of pins, so they're actually kind of stacked. The display goes on this side, and the ribbon cable connector goes on this side. So you have to install the one first, flip it over, and then you install the other one. But you have to do them in one order, because once you install the display, you can't get to the pins for the other one anymore. Now this board is made specifically to work in the Grants and Cobra 148s, just like it is. The spacing is made for a perfect match on these radios. But you'll notice it has little mouse bites here, really wide slots, okay? So in some applications, you could use this in any radio that has any of those PLL chips. You know, in a base station, you might have the channel selector down here and the displays over here. So what you would do is snap this little board in half. You'd mount your channel, you'd remove the original channel selector, stick your rotary encoder in, and then your display board would go over and replace, and then you just need to connect these 4 traces that you're going to be breaking when you snap the board. You just need to reconnect those with wires. Now, also working on boards for a lot of other radios. I need to get a bunch of them pulled out, actually, for him and get some measurements and whatnot. But, like, here's one that's already made up for the Washington, okay? So it has the 3 LEDs, and remember, there's 2 different versions. You have 3 or 4 LEDs. But, yeah, so you you can see, actually, it says right on there, Washington 858 chassis. Okay, so that's one that has the UPD858 PLL chip. But you'd just remove that channel selector and display. You'd stick this display board, because that's all this is a display board. And then you'd need just to install the rotary encoder down for your channel selector. You actually take the 3 LEDs off of the original display board and then just reuse them. You just stick them on here. But, so, you know, there's going to be lots of more stuff over time will be coming. You know, you could use this, but this is a more professional approach doing it this way, because you're not trying to, you know, bodge in something and whatnot. You're basically coming up with a bolt-in replacement. Remove the old one, just screw the new one in, plug it in, you're done. So I think that pretty much covers installation on this. Like I said, it's really straightforward and simple. You don't need to, unlike the Lescom board that I took out of here, it used a 3-position rotary switch. It used one of the switches up here for 10 kc because it had missing channels, because it had bands, where this one is just continuous tuning, goes from -40 to 315. So, you know, and this is also a push button, because this is a rotary encoder with a built-in button, so it actually pushes in. So I guess I'll stop the video here. I'll get the cover put back on it, get it powered up, and then I'll do the operational portion of the video, where I can show the scan feature, how that works, you know, the actual channel coverage, and just the general look of it. You know, what one of these radios now looks like with a 3-channel or a 3-digit display, because it's a nice looking radio with that display in there. It fills the window a lot more, just, and it's impressive looking. So give me a minute, I'll get everything hooked up. Okay, so here she is put back together and up and running. I'm sorry about the blinding meter light. This radio was obviously had been modified before, because it had the Lescom board in it, and it had a boatload of other modifications done to it, including the white faced meter panel and the LED light. So yeah, it's kind of blinding. It's not that bright in person, but in the camera, I know you get a lot of bloom. You know, it's really just blinds the camera. But so you can see I have it in scan right now. That's one of the features. Now you'll notice there's a little decimal point there. So there's 3 decimal points on this display. When that center, so, you know, each 7-segment display has its own little decimal point. When the center one is on, that means the scan mode is enabled. That's just a little indicator to let you know that it's in scan. And I currently have the radio hooked up to a signal generator. So what I'm going to do is turn the squelch down. And you'll see that when the squelch breaks, okay, it'll stop scanning. And after you turn the squelch, I'm not gonna turn the generator off. I'll just turn the squelch back up so the squelch closes. So that would be basically like someone, the person that was talking on the other end let go of their microphone. Initially, this thing would just immediately go back to scanning. That's been changed to a delay now, because it's kind of more like a police scanner. Police scanners, when an officer calls dispatch, as soon as the officer lets go of the microphone, the scanner doesn't go immediately back into scan. It'll hold there for a short duration in case somebody else is going to talk. And this is the same way. But this does, if another convenient thing is, if it does stop on a channel, and it's somebody you want to talk to, the instant you key the microphone, it goes out of scan. It completely bumps it out of scan. The decimal point goes away. Because the last thing you want is you hear something, you talk to him, you let go of your mic, and if that guy is in the middle of getting a drink of coffee and he doesn't key his microphone in time before the timer times out, and it automatically goes back into scan, well, now you're fumbling trying to get back to that original channel. So as soon as you key a microphone, it dumps it out of the scan mode. So I'll turn the squelch down here, and then turn it up to the point where it starts, and there's a delay, and then it should start scanning. I guess, yep, okay, I had it up high enough. And I have a signal being input into this on channel 19. So when it gets to 19, you'll hear that tone, and you'll see the display stop scanning. Okay, and now if I continue to turn it up, as the squelch break or closes, you'll see it goes back into scan. There'll be a delay. There's a short delay, and then it goes back into scan. Now, if we'll get it so it stops on that again, turn the squelch back down some. When it comes back around to 19, it'll stop again. Okay, so there it's stopped. Now let's say that guy's done talking, and you want to talk to him. So, what I have hooked up here is just one of my little test jigs, BNC mic plug and a toggle switch. I use that when I'm doing alignment, so I can inject audio signals. But if I flip it into transmit, watch that decimal point. Oh, there we go. The decimal point went away. Well, actually, you can't see the meter, I don't think, because it's being blinded by that light. But so you can see it went into transmit, and that decimal point has gone away, and it's gone. And it won't go back into scan. You turn the squelch back up. It's completely dumped it out of the scan mode. So that covers that. This also has, so if you push and hold, this is what's called a long press. So push the channel selector in and hold it for what they call a long press. That'll take you into a menu system. So BP, that stands for beep, for Roger beeps. Right now it's at 0. You'll notice as soon as I turn it, the 1, but you'll see right beside the B there, in between the B and the P, a new decimal point appeared. If you notice, when I turn back to 0, it's off. If I go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, the decimal point stays on, and those are the Roger beeps. Okay, actually there's a really, really annoying one here, so let me just turn on a little monitor radio. Turn the squelch down, just set that right there. So we'll set this to, let's say, 4. Press it, and then what you do is just what they call a short press. Just push the button, that enters it into memory. There's the scan, so you can turn the scan. Notice that decimal point turns on and off. You can turn scan off or on. We'll leave that off. And then BR is for brightness. So in this here, you can see you can increase or decrease the brightness of the LED display. I think 1 is about the same brightness as a standard display. I kind of like that. I don't like blindingly bright radios, especially at night in a vehicle. So that's a nice feature to have. Now you'll notice after I press that, you'll see we came in, there's a flashing number. That number is your home channel. So you can set that to anything you want. Any channel that you want, that'll be your home channel. And what happens is, so we'll set that to 19, press enter, and now the radio's on and working. So if I, go up here to, say we're up here at channel, 123. Now I don't want to sit there and have to spin the knob. I want to get back to my home channel that I had set. You just push the rotary encoder, just push it in, and it bumps you right back to your home channel. Now I'm going to go into transmit, and then when I unkey, you'll hear the Roger beep that I selected. Yeah, very annoying one. Bomb drop with some beeps at the end. kind of corny, but oh my god, is that thing ever annoying. So now, like I say, the channel range on this thing, you can see I can go down farther than minus 40, but this radio's VCO will only lock to like minus, I think it was like 42 or 44, and I always like to have a buffer zone there to ensure that it's guaranteed to lock on this channel every time. So I set it at minus 40, and then the top channel is channel 315. So actually, let me key the radio. And channel 315, I'm looking up at my frequency counter there, is actually 30.155 megahertz. And then I'll just turn the channel selector, and that's the low channel, 26.565. So this radio's coverage, it transmits and receives from 26.565 all the way up to 30.155 megahertz. Yeah, this thing has a shitload of span. Now, the problem with that is this is a CB radio. So if you wanted to, do an actual, honest-to-God 10-meter conversion. Actually, let me turn off the Roger beep. Beep 0. Okay. 10-meter conversion. You can, program your limits down farther if when you have the board installed. You could set the channels to cover only. So let's say you, honest to God, wanted to use this as a 10-meter radio, and you did not want it to be able to transmit or receive on CB channels anymore. You can set, when you install this board, you can set the bandwidth, or how many channels and where they are that this thing will cover. Full coverage, like this one's set up right now, or you could limit it. So if you only wanted this radio to work on the 10-meter band, okay, you could set the bandwidth to start at 28 megahertz and stop at 29.7 and make it a 10-meter radio. Yeah, like I say, once you get out to channel 315, the power has dropped down to like 1 watt, and receive sensitivity is, pardon my French, is just crap. You're never going to get this thing, a radio like this, to broadband that many megahertz and have a flat transmit power and receive sensitivity. It's usable. I'd say it has very good transmit power and receive sensitivity up to about 100 channel around 150. I think it was, actually, just let me spin down here. I'm going to look over at my power meter. Flip it into transmit. Yeah, it hasn't gone down that far by. It started to drop, but it's not that much. But by the time I get to like 250, around there, yeah, I'm down to like 2 watts. And it's dropping pretty drastically. Yeah, we're down to like it's a little bit over a watt. It might be doing 1.25 watts, maybe a little less than 1.25 watts, but it is transmitting. And then if I go to minus 40, it's back up to full power. So, from about minus 40 to 100, your full power output and receive sensitivity will be fine. Once you start to get outside of those upper channels, your output power and receive sensitivity are really going to start to drop off because it's just broadbanded so far. But it does still work there. It's just the power is going to gradually drop off the higher you get. So there's just a quick video on, I guess you could almost call this the official release video for this channel modification board. So I hope everybody likes it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We only have a limited number of boards right now. There's more being manufactured, going to have to be assembled and programmed and whatnot. I think it's pretty much safe to say that every board that is in existence right now is spoken for. I have 2 more right now, ready to go in radios, and they're already spoken for. And there'll be more on the way. So, but this is the, I guess the first official release. Mark has the original, the prototype board in his unit in Grant. So he has the first one. This will be the first official release radio. So there you go.